The Human Centipede 2. It begins as if it were going to continue where the previous story left off, but we are immediately told that, in the universe of the second film, the first one is just a movie. The entire film is presented in black and white. We are taken to London, where we meet Martin, a parking garage security guard who is obsessively devoted to the first film, watching it over and over again. As a curious detail, the role was reportedly offered to Mark Hamill, known for voicing characters like the Joker and Chucky, but he rejected it as soon as he heard what it was about. From his security booth, Martin watches a couple arguing through the cameras and, after being provoked, shoots both of them in the foot before finishing them off with a metal pipe. He then tapes them up, stuffs them into a trunk, and calmly returns to work. Back in his office, Martin's obsession becomes clearer. He keeps a scrapbook filled with images and photos of the cast. It seems he wants to replicate the human centipede concept, and his fixation begins to resemble an illness as he spends his entire day watching the film. Later, he takes his victims to a warehouse he plans to rent, where an argument with the owner turns violent and things spiral out of control. Martin begins preparing all his captives for his experiment when he receives a phone call. In the message, we hear that people are searching for the two actresses who starred in the first movie. The next day, we discover that Martin lives with his mother and attends therapy sessions daily. During one session, it is revealed that he was abused by his father as a child. It is also confirmed that he intends to create his own human centipede, but take it further, using 12 people instead of 3. That evening, he and his mother are visited by a neighbor who had been playing loud music. The man becomes aggressive and threatens to kill Martin. Martin continues studying the film carefully, taking notes on everything he believes he needs to recreate his own version. He keeps abducting people for the experiment, including a family where only a young boy and his pregnant mother survive, an important detail later on. His obsession goes so far that, while watching the movie, he even rubs himself with a piece of sandpaper. At the warehouse, we see he has gathered numerous people, all naked and bound hand and foot. He receives a call from the agent of one of the actresses who believes she is attending an audition for a Tarantino film. That same night, we learn that Martin's mother wanted to kill him, fed up with his behavior and fixation on the human centipede. Enraged, Martin murders her, crushing her skull. The neighbor, hearing the commotion, enters the apartment and is subdued after being shot in the leg. Martin prepares everything for his experiment, bringing tape, staples, hammers, and other tools. He eventually picks up the actress from the airport and takes her to the warehouse. The time comes to connect all his victims, creating a much larger human centipede. Martin treats them like animals. He injects each one with a laxative. The pregnant woman, who seemed dead, is actually alive and manages to escape to a car, where she gives birth. In the chaos, she accidentally kills the newborn when it falls beneath the accelerator pedal. The centipede breaks apart while trying to escape, but Martin kills everyone, leaving only the actress alive. She forces a centipede into Martin's body in retaliation, but he ultimately kills her as well. After all of this supposed experiment, we learn that none of it was real. It was all part of Martin's imagination, and that is how the film ends. Tusk. This movie almost made it into my video on the darkest endings, but honestly, the entire film is so disturbing, it's dark from beginning to end. Wallace, a smug, arrogant young man, co-hosts a podcast with his friend Teddy where they mock people who go viral for humiliating reasons. Always on the hunt for extreme stories, Wallace travels to Canada to interview a guy who became famous after accidentally cutting off his own leg on video. But when he arrives, he finds out the man took his own life, unable to cope with the bullying and pressure that followed his viral fame. Desperate not to return empty-handed, Wallace stumbles upon a strange handwritten ad posted by an old man named Howard who claims to have incredible life stories to tell. Intrigued, Wallace heads to Howard's remote mansion deep in the woods. Howard, eccentric but seemingly kind, offers him tea and begins to recount his time stranded at sea, surviving for months with nothing but a walrus he named Mr. Tusk for company. As the conversation drags on, Wallace starts to feel dizzy, and then everything goes black. When he wakes up, Wallace discovers he's been drugged, his leg amputated, and he's now a prisoner. Howard lies, saying a venomous spider bit him and doctors had to operate to save his life. But Wallace quickly realizes the truth. He's trapped, phoneless, and this has all been an elaborate setup. Slowly, Howard reveals his true plan to transform Wallace, both physically and mentally, into a walrus. Meanwhile, Wallace's girlfriend Allison and his friend Teddy, who share a strained relationship and a backstory of betrayal, start to worry after receiving a strange, fragmented voicemail from him. They go to the police but are dismissed. Eventually, they find help from an eccentric French-Canadian detective who has been tracking a serial killer responsible for dozens of disappearances. He informs them that Howard has been kidnapping men for years in his twisted quest to create a human-walrus hybrid, his idealized version of Mr. Tusk. Back at the mansion, Wallace is subjected to a series of brutal surgeries and forced conditioning. Howard mutilates him, sews a walrus suit from stitched-together skin, cuts out his tongue, feeds him raw fish, and makes him behave like an animal. The transformation is total, body and mind. Wallace can no longer speak. His humanity begins to slip away. Eventually, Howard puts on a walrus suit and forces Wallace into a symbolic fight inside a makeshift indoor pool. He wants Mr. Tusk to finally be strong enough to kill him, something the real walrus wasn't able to do. Wallace, now fully consumed by his new identity, impales him with his tusks. When Allison, Teddy, and the detective arrive, they find Wallace mutilated beyond recognition, his mind shattered, trapped in a monstrous form. They can't bring themselves to kill him, so they let him live. 1 year later, Allison and Teddy visit Wallace, who now resides in an abandoned wildlife sanctuary. He lives in a murky enclosure like an actual walrus, cut off from the world, incapable of speech or connection. Allison tosses him a raw fish and tells him she still loves him. Wallace begins to cry. A flashback shows a moment between them where they once discussed how tears are what make us human. That final tear suggests that somewhere deep inside the monster, a flicker of his humanity remains. The 120 Days of Sodom exists in a category of its own, a clinical documentation of human depravity so extreme it redefines the limits of movies. This film was born as one of the most controversial and sickening in the history of cinema, inspired by the equally controversial work by the Marquis de Sade, The 120 Days of Sodom, from 1785. Due to the crudeness and controversy of the work, its director, Pier Paolo Pasolini, was savagely murdered. 4 aristocrats, a duke, a bishop, a judge, and a banker, gather in a remote castle with 42 victims, children, teenagers, and servants stripped of autonomy. Their purpose is methodical: execute 120 days of escalating atrocities, each more grotesque than the last. The horrors progress with mathematical precision: forced mutilations, calculated humiliations, sexual tortures beyond imagination. Victims become objects, their suffering cataloged like specimens in a lab. The film places the 4 masters in the Republic of Salo in 1945, where they begin to kidnap young people. The Duke announces that they will marry their respective daughters to be united for life. The kidnapped victims are informed that they are creatures destined to please their 4 masters, that they are dead to the outside world, and that all religious activity will be punished by death. Later, the bishop takes a prisoner to the bathroom and orders her to piss while she watches him doing the same. The cruelty intensifies when the banker takes a piece of bread, fills it with nails, and forces a female prisoner to eat it. After hearing the account of a prostitute who confessed to killing her mother, the Duke defecates on the floor and forces a girl to eat it. That same night, the prisoners are forcibly subjected to what is the most sickening scene of the entire film: eating excrement. The bishop discovers a soldier and the black maid having relations, so the 4 masters finish both of them off with several gunshots. The end shows the prisoners with a blue ribbon being brutally punished and murdered. Faced with this atrocity, the woman playing the piano can't take it anymore and commits suicide by jumping out the window. Men Behind the Sun is a harrowing Chinese film that holds nothing back in its depiction of the horrific crimes committed by Unit 731. This is precisely why it's so disturbing. Most of what you see is based on historical fact. This unit carried out biological weapons research through the torture, vivisection, and murder of civilian and military prisoners, mostly Chinese, Korean, and Russian. The story begins in February 1945. Japan is losing the war, and Dr. Shiro Ishii, the inventor of the water purifier, is appointed to lead Unit 731. His mission is to speed up the development of biological weapons that could turn the tide of the conflict. Alongside him, a group of young Japanese recruits arrives at the base for training, unaware that they're about to become witnesses and accomplices to unimaginable atrocities. Lieutenant Kawasaki, brutal and ruthless, trains the youths as they slowly begin to understand the reality of the base. Prisoners are used as live test subjects, stripped of all dignity and humanity. One of the film's most infamous scenes shows a woman's arms being frozen and then shattered like ice. In another, a man is placed in a pressure chamber until his body literally bursts. One of the most brutal moments comes when a mute Japanese boy, a friend of the young recruits, is deceived, dissected alive, and his organs removed for study. This event creates a moral fracture among the characters and shows that even fellow countrymen are expendable if deemed useful to the experiment. The film also documents the creation and testing of biological bombs, many based on fleas infected with bubonic plague. Scientists try to strengthen the virus so it can survive the heat of an explosion. Prisoners are used as live targets, shot, exposed to poison gas, or blown up to measure effectiveness. Amid the chaos, one of the young soldiers begins to question the ethics of his superiors. But it's too late. Japan is hit with the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the Soviet Union declares war. With defeat imminent, the order is clear: destroy the base, execute all prisoners, and eliminate all evidence. Unit 731 evacuates. They burn documents, kill witnesses, and bury the bodies in mass graves. Some soldiers, overwhelmed by guilt, take their own lives. Shiro Ishii, however, manages to escape. After the war, Ishii is captured by the Americans, but he is never tried for war crimes. Instead, he offers his research in exchange for immunity. In 1946, an outbreak of bubonic plague hits Harbin, caused by the same fleas used in the experiments. The film was heavily criticized for its graphic violence, but also praised for its courage in exposing what others tried to bury. It stands as a grim reminder of how far science can go without ethics, and how ideology can strip away humanity, turning people into monsters. Martyrs. The story begins with a young girl named Lucy who escapes from an abandoned warehouse where she was subjected to extreme torture and abuse. She was malnourished, chained to a chair, and forced to live in inhumane conditions. Years later, Lucy is still haunted by the trauma of her past. Her only friend and confidant is Anna, who stays by her side despite everything. 15 years after her escape, Lucy tracks down a family she believes were her tormentors. In a sudden act of violence, she breaks into their home and murders all of them, parents and children alike. She then calls Anna and confesses what she has done. Anna arrives at the scene, horrified by the massacre, but Lucy insists they were guilty. As Anna tries to understand what happened, Lucy begins to experience terrifying attacks by a monstrous figure. From Anna's perspective, we see the truth. The creature isn't real. It's a hallucination born from Lucy's trauma, and she is in fact harming herself. Consumed by guilt and unable to escape her visions, Lucy takes her own life. Devastated, Anna stays behind in the house, and while exploring, she accidentally discovers a secret door in the basement. There, she finds a naked, emaciated woman chained and wearing a metal mask bolted to her head. Anna frees her and tries to help, but the woman, deeply traumatized, mutilates herself before a group of armed strangers storms the house and kills her. Anna is captured by these strangers, who reveal themselves to be part of a secret organization. Their goal is to uncover what lies beyond death by subjecting people to unbearable physical and psychological torment. They believe that through extreme suffering, certain individuals can reach a state of transcendence, becoming martyrs capable of glimpsing the afterlife. Anna is imprisoned, beaten, humiliated, and subjected to relentless abuse. Eventually, they remove the skin from her body while keeping her alive. Stripped completely of identity and humanity, miraculously, Anna survives the procedure and enters a deep altered mental state. An elderly woman, the leader of the organization, approaches Anna and asks if she saw the other world. Anna whispers something in her ear. Whatever she says is so disturbing or so profound that the woman takes her own life shortly after, leaving the rest of the group stunned and without answers. The film ends with Anna still alive but completely disconnected from reality, lying in a bed. The message remains ambiguous. What did she see? Was the afterlife so terrifying or so beautiful that life no longer held meaning? Megan is Missing contains such disturbing images that it was banned in countries like New Zealand, as the film is based on real events. The movie begins with a home video of two friends, 14-year-old Megan and her best friend 13-year-old Amy. The tape stops to indicate that Megan disappeared on January 14, 2007, and 3 weeks later her friend Amy also went missing. What follows is a compilation of found footage related to the case. In the plot, Megan video calls and meets an older boy named Gideon who bothers her. She and Amy attend a party where Amy has an altercation with Gideon and sees Megan with another boy. Megan has a video call with her friend Lexi, who tells her about a boy she met online named Josh. Lexi sends her a photo and emphasizes how attractive she finds him. Later, Megan has a video call with Josh, but only Megan has her camera on, and they decide to meet in person at a party. That same night, Megan calls Amy to tell her she is on her way to that party to meet Josh. Days later, Amy, worried about Megan's absence, tries unsuccessfully to contact Megan's friends, who ignore her. Amy calls Josh, but he tells her that Megan never showed up for their date the previous night. A few days later, Megan is officially declared missing. News reports indicate that the police found a recording of a man taking Megan away. 2 weeks later, Amy reports Josh as the main suspect. Amy starts a blog about Megan's favorite places and is confronted by Megan's friends. Amy visits a bridge where she used to hang out with Megan and is stalked by the silhouette of a man. The next day, Amy receives a call from Josh where he threatens her and says he is watching her. Subsequently, the film shows an on-screen text informing that 2 photos of a tortured Megan Stewart were uploaded to a website, prompting an FBI investigation. Amy returns to the bridge and reveals that Megan's family and the police are giving up hope. Shortly after, the news reports that Amy has also disappeared. The police find Amy's camera near the bridge, and in the recordings, they spot the person who was stalking her, who they believe to be Josh. The last 22 minutes of the footage found on Amy's camera are presented. The video shows Amy in an underground cellar, tied up. Josh appears, whose real name is not Josh, and takes her out of the cell. Josh takes Amy to the same table where he photographed Megan and repeatedly abuses her. Finally, Josh unties Amy on the condition that she gets into a barrel to go home. Inside the barrel, Amy finds Megan's decomposing body. Josh forces her into the barrel. In the next cut, Josh ignores Amy's pleas, digs a pit, and throws the barrel into the hole, covering it with dirt. Amy's screams fade away. The film ends by showing Josh having buried Amy alive along with Megan's corpse before walking away. House of a Thousand Corpses. Please don't judge me, but this is honestly one of my favorite movies. The story begins on October 30th, 1977, with a twisted local TV segment hosted by the one and only Captain Spaulding, owner of a gas station horror museum hybrid. During the intro, a couple of armed robbers storm in, but Spaulding brutally fights them off, setting the tone for what's to come. Later, a group of young travelers are driving through rural America, documenting bizarre roadside attractions for a book. They stop at Spaulding's shop and become fascinated by his horror-themed setup, and one legend in particular, Dr. Satan, a mad surgeon who supposedly experimented on asylum patients in a quest to create superhumans. Locals say he was hanged from a tree nearby, but his body mysteriously vanished. After some prodding, Spaulding draws them a map to the hanging tree. On their way there, they pick up a hitchhiker, Baby, a quirky, flirtatious girl who claims to live near the tree and offers help when their car breaks down. They end up at Baby's home, where they meet the Firefly family, Baby's seductive and sinister mother, Mother Firefly, her sadistic brothers, including the psychotic Otis Driftwood, the silent giant Tiny, and the creepy Rufus, as well as some other deranged characters. What begins as an awkward dinner spirals into full-blown horror. The group is attacked and taken captive. From there, it's a descent into sadism and madness. Bill is grotesquely mutilated and turned into a Fish Boy sideshow prop. Mary tries to escape but is ultimately killed. Jerry and Denise are separated and subjected to nightmarish torment. Meanwhile, Denise's father becomes worried and contacts the local sheriff. But when the police arrive at the Firefly house, they're ambushed and brutally executed. Otis even turns their corpses into part of a twisted Easter Bunny ritual. Eventually, the remaining victims are thrown into a vast underground pit filled with zombie-like creatures, decomposing bodies, and long-forgotten horrors. It's here that we meet the infamous Dr. Satan himself, alive and continuing his grotesque experiments in a secret lab. Denise manages to escape to the surface and is picked up by a seemingly helpful Captain Spaulding until Otis rises up from the back seat. The final scene shows Denise strapped to Dr. Satan's operating table, seconds away from becoming his next experiment. A Serbian film is perfect, so I don't get why people freak out when I say this movie is so good. It just totally nails what it's trying to do. For some context, a former adult film actor named Milos lives a peaceful life with his wife and their young son. Although their financial situation is challenging, he has left his past career behind to focus on his family. However, financial pressures lead him to consider an offer from an old colleague to star in a new high-budget film directed by an enigmatic filmmaker. Milos hesitates, but seeing that the payment would secure his son's future, he ultimately agrees. From the start, the contract terms are unusual. The director describes the film as a work of authentic art, without a script and featuring improvised scenes. Milos is instructed to follow directions through an earpiece during filming. In the first shoot, he is taken to an orphanage where he meets a woman and a young girl. The scene is unsettling, with the woman behaving oddly. When Milos is led to another room with her, the situation becomes increasingly disturbing and aggressive. As the days progress, the filming sessions grow more troubling. Milos loses control as he is given substances without his consent, leading him to engage in increasingly extreme and aggressive acts. At one point, he witnesses a deeply shocking scene involving a newborn, which horrifies him. He attempts to leave the production, but the director, a manipulative figure, reveals the project's true purpose: to create an extreme film for a select audience, portraying genuine suffering as art, which he claims will redeem Serbia. Desperate to escape, Milos is subjected to more substances. In a chaotic blur of fragmented memories, he recovers tapes recorded by the director, revealing his own participation in unthinkable acts. In one devastating moment, he learns he was coerced, under the influence of drugs, into abusing his own son, while his brother, a police officer, did the same to his wife, both with their faces concealed. The director had orchestrated everything. Overcome with rage and despair, Milos violently ends the lives of the director and his brother in a moment of intense emotion. After the tragedy, Milos returns home to his wife and son, who are alive but emotionally shattered. Realizing they cannot move forward, they lie down together at dawn. Milos, overwhelmed, uses a firearm to end their lives. The next day, the production crew arrives at the scene. A cameraman approaches the family's remains, and the producer coldly orders, "Begin with the young one."